our thanks and gratitude by giving her the certificate of appreciation. I really, I have been observing her performance since last couple of months. She has really done a commendable job. It's worth marking, and I couldn't remain without appreciating her in this forum. So I congratulate Shiva Shakti Madam for such commendable job. Continue doing the good job as you are doing. Thank you. I hope she's there.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Uh, yes, yes, we have already given her the certificate. If she can show that or present that later also, it will be very nice. Uh, anyway, coming to the vote of thanks, we are really in time, dot time. So I request the Assistant Professor of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Chennai, Dr. P. Subramaniam, sir, to kindly give the vote of thanks. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, yeah. May I audible, ma'am?
Right, sir.
May I audible? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. It's my great privilege and it is my great honor to propose a hearty vote of thanks in the inaugural function of the online capacity building program organized by the Center for Capacity Building Program for School Teachers TNTU and Dhupkari College of Education. At the outset, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, most revered Professor Dr. N. Panchanadam, Sir, for always motivating us to do a lot of programs during this lockdown period. He is acting as a catalyst for the development of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University. Under the able leadership and guidance of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University is functioning very well in all areas. So from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely thanking him for motivating us to do a lot of programs during this pandemic period. Thank you, sir. Next, I extend my sincere thanks to our most respected registrar, Professor Dr. V. Balakrishnan, sir, for giving necessary permission to organize this program. So we, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of my team, on behalf of the organizing team of this webinar, we wholeheartedly thank you, sir. Next, I sincerely thank Professor and Head, Professor Dr. M. Govindan, sir, for his wonderful presidential address. Amidst his busy schedule, he spared his valuable time with us and he graced this occasion a very meaningful and interesting. Thank you so much, sir. I must thank Dr. Himanshu Kumar Mandal, President, Dhupkari College of Education, West Bengal, for his wonderful inaugural address. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, on behalf of Dhupkari College of Education, and my own behalf, we wholeheartedly thank you, sir, for your wonderful inaugural address. I extend my sincere thanks to Sri Jadindra Nath Sarkar, sir, Vice President, Dhupkari College of Education, and one of the convener of this webinar, for his efficient leadership towards organization of this webinar. Thank you so much, sir. And next, I extend my sincere thanks to our Deputy Registrar. Though he is working in administration part, he is a well-known chemist, is having a doctorate in chemist, and he is serving his wonderful service for the benefit of our university. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful felicitation address. Thank you so much, sir. I extend my sincere thanks to the principal of Stella Marituna College of Education, Dr. Joseph Catherine. She is always motivating us to do a lot of programs, and she is always a well-wisher for the development of our university. On behalf of my team, we wholeheartedly thank you, ma'am. I extend my sincere thanks to the Dr. V.M. Sasikumar, sir, former principal, Bhutta College of Teacher Education, for his wonderful words of appreciation. We were delighted by your presence, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I extend my sincere thanks to the vibrant coordinator of Center for Capacity Building Programs for Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, my sister, and one of the organizing secretary of this webinar, Dr. T. Sivasakti Rajamal Madam, for her tireless efforts towards organization of this webinar. Thank you, ma'am. I extend my sincere thanks to another legend, Dr. Bobby Mahanta, a patient listener, wonderful leader. Under the able leadership and guidance of Madam, the Dhupkari College of Education is functioning very well in all areas. We wholeheartedly thank you, ma'am, for your sincere efforts and encouragement towards the organization of this webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I must thank all the teaching and non-teaching faculties of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Dhupkuri College of Education, West Bengal, and other dignitaries from all over the world for your wonderful support and encouragement towards organization of this webinar. Thank you all. I must thank all the organizing committee members. Without them, this function cannot be a successful one. So I must thank all the organizing committee members for their sincere efforts and their encouragement towards organization of this webinar. Because of you only, because of you people only, this program is possible. Thank you all. I must thank Dr. Premalada ma'am. She is always well-wisher of our Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University. She is always rendering her wonderful support towards organization of any event in Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University. Thank you, ma'am. And I must thank Dr. Rajkumar, Assistant Professor, Tyagarajar College of Preceptors, for his wonderful support and encouragement, and particularly his, I have to mention about his technical support. He is always supporting us in a lot of ways, especially in technical part. So we wholeheartedly thank you, sir. And I must thank Miss Haimadi Saga, IKSC, Dhupkuri College of Education, for his wonderful words. And I must thank all the participants, the real hero and heroines of this webinar. Without them, this function cannot be a successful one. It is your ability, because of your ability only, this day will be a memorable day in the history of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University and in the history of Dhupkuri College of Education. Thank you all, dear participants. And once again, I thank one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such enlightening vote of thanks. Well, I think we should feel proud to announce.
Dr. Bobby ma'am.
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you so much for your appreciation, for
thank you so much.
And appreciation and motivation and encouragement. Thank you so much for you and your President, College President Himanju sir, and all the staff members. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Right, ma'am. The certificate of appreciation, like for Dr. Shiva Shakti madam, like it reads as, let all be known that this certificate is presented to our dear, the Dr. T. Shiva Shakti Rajamal, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Psychology, Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, Chennai, in recognition in her effortless and excellent handling and conducting the webinar since the nationwide lockdown started and up to date. She conducted not less than 75 webinars, imagine, at a go. Not only that, the day, night, or you see, the time was not a factor at all. She was always available. It's really great. So Dhupkuri College of Education is really very glad to be associated with you, ma'am. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So we are, dotting time. It's 12. Okay. So yes. I think we can begin with the session. Right, ma'am, with your permission?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the first eminent speaker of the day is a very kind and good human who is none other than Dr. Vasif Mothers Day. He was the doctor at National University, Jordan, where he was the head of the English department for 2 years, the head of Department of Translation, and head of Department of English Classroom teacher, a TEFL specialist. He participated actively in many conferences, both in Jordan and abroad. He is a member of many associations, both national and international. Now, he is directing a private center for translation. It is my honor to welcome you, sir, eagerly waiting to hear. Over to you, sir. Wasif, sir? Wasif, sir, are you there?
Ma'am, கொஞ்சம் announce பண்ணு ஜோஸ் இருக்காங்க.
He's there. He's there. He's there. He's there. Yes, sir. Sir, can you view us?
Ma'am, Dr. Bobby, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, yes. Shibli Noman. She's there, no, ma'am. You can ask her to present the first session.
Okay.
Okay.
We can do that. We can do
yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay, Shibli, sir, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can we present with you, sir?
Should I start?
Okay, sir. Let me introduce yourself.
Yes.
Sir, Shibli Norman is a lecturer at the Department of Japanese Studies, University of Dhaka. He completed his bachelor's and MSS, that is Master of Social Science, from the Department of Political Science, University of Dhaka. He was awarded university scholarship for his academic achievement in BSS honors in the year 2012. Previously, he was faculty member of Department of Political Science, Jagannath University, Dhaka, and earlier at BRAC University, Dhaka. He is co-author of a research book. He has participated and presented papers in numerous national and international seminars symposiums, and workshops in Bangladesh, Indonesia, Japan, and Thailand. He has completed a short course with distinction from Sophia University, Japan, and recipient of Japan Foundation Scholarship. Apart from his academic career, he presents English news at the national television channel Bangladesh Television, which I really follow that, and anchors high-profile national and international programs. His research interests are governance, public policy, Bangladesh politics, Japan and East Asia politics, geopolitics, and political economy. Over to you, sir. We are very pleased to have you with us, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bobby Mahatma Madam, and of course, T. Shiva Shakti Rajaman Madam, for inviting me as a speaker over there.
Welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much, Madam. It's my privilege that you have invited me as a guest speaker over there in a very prestigious program, a webinar, an international webinar, of course, for enhancing the capacity of the school teachers. And I express my gratitude to Tamil Nadu Teachers University of Education for organizing such a wonderful webinar. If you allow me, may I just go to my content, and probably I'm not getting any option of sharing some slides. If
no, you
there is
can
an
share your screen, sir. You can share.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So it's probably had been done only for the host. If you just allow all panelists, probably I can share them.
You're now co-host, sir. Not the co-host.
Well, yes, now I can do it. So thank you so much. Let us start. Let's begin with introduction to research methods and methodologies. Since you have already got my introduction, I'm Shibli Noman, a lecturer at the Department of Japanese Studies, University of Dhaka. I'm basically a political science graduate who is trying to do some research on social and political issues. Well, it's just, I believe, a sharing of understanding from my side, just to get to know each other. And if there is any feedback, any query, question, I would definitely appreciate from the participants or any other panelists if you want to share. If we want to begin, I would start, in today's discussion, we will try to cover defining research and finding its characteristics. I am sure you already are very much acquainted with that. Overview of the final research project. We'll try to get to know what are the steps that we usually follow in finalizing any research project. And then the difference between research methodologies and methods. Very often our students even keep asking us questions, what's the difference between methodologies and methods? We'll try to get to know a little bit of that. We will try to have a little bit of understanding on qualitative and quantitative research as well, and how in research we choose which methodology might suit. So we will try to understand how we can choose a methodology as well. Then later on, we'll try to go for a sample research questions and some common pitfalls, both for qualitative and quantitative. There would be some ethical considerations of research and common pitfalls that we sometimes face. We will try to come up with that as well. Finally, a summary, a little bit of tips and question answer session as per the program, as per the plan of the program. We'll go for that. So if we want to begin, just a moment. Okay. I'm just trying to fix it up a bit. Okay. So defining research and finding characteristics. What do we understand by research? Whenever we talk about research, it seems something really heavy. So it's like someone having a very heavy spectacle, sitting with a very heavy mood, and we think that they're doing research. But research in academia is quite, I must not acknowledge or say it's quite easy, but not that tough at all, I believe. Of course, things are tough whenever we try to do something really seriously and professionally. Still, whenever we think about research, then searching the things again and again, systematically. So a systematic approach must be followed for accurate data. So whatever we deal with, that data must be accurate. Rules and procedures are an integral part of the process that set the objectives. And researchers need to practice ethics and code of conduct while making observations or drawing conclusions. So whatever comes in mind, that cannot be put into research, but it must be systematic. It must have a scientific process of explanation. Well, research is based on logical reasoning and involves both inductive and deductive methods. Since you already have mentioned inductive and that I'm a political science graduate, so inductive and deductive methods from Aristotle and Plato that we very often use. So inductive, I hope all of you are very much acquainted with this. Inductive method is from particular to general, and deductive from general to particular. Whenever we narrow anything down to a particular decision, that is deductive. And from a particular one, after a sample study, we go for a better understanding, a broader spectrum we want to show, then we call that one inductive. Well, the data or knowledge that is derived is in real time from actual observations in natural settings. That is, any data that we collect, we have to understand the context as well. Without context, any knowledge cannot be a complete one. So whenever we collect data, whenever we accumulate it for any particular research, any particular explanation or understanding, we must all know in what context we have taken the data. So there is an in-depth analysis of all data collected so that there are no anomalies associated with it. So these are some few characteristics that we try to understand. Well, research creates a path for generating new questions. That is, we search a question, we find out another question. So existing data helps create more opportunities for research. Any particular research which we apparently say that is complete is not complete at all. It is another step in the way of gathering knowledge, in the way of in an addition in the existing knowledge. So research is analytical in nature, not merely explanation or elaboration. So analytical, it makes use of all the available data so that there is no ambiguity in inference. So accuracy is one of the most important aspects of research. The information that is obtained should be accurate and true to its nature. For example, laboratories provide a controlled environment to collect data. Accuracy is measured in the instruments used, the calibrations of instruments or tools, and the final result of the experiment. So these are some issues, some words that I would wanted to add in the as defining or characteristics of research. So if you want to talk about the final research project process, what would be the steps? In many cases, I'm sure that university teachers, some NGO workers, and many other organizations, they come out, they just try to through a project for funding, and they conduct research, and finally a result comes out, which is very much, of course, valuable to humanity. So the first step that is followed in any research project is identify a gap in the literature. Selecting a topic of interest. Well, that topic of interest, of course, shall be of high value. So what value? To whom we would approach for funding. There must be an importance of that particular issue for that particular patronizer. So without that interest, without the interest of the patronizer, they would not come forward for any particular research. So a research that must be interesting, that must add some value, that must bring some sort of change, that must be, of course, of high interest by the patronizer. So, and of course, whenever we go for research, sorry, had there been a problem with the screen share? Doctrinal. Okay. Well, I've got many message, and suddenly the screen share has stopped. Should I go for that once again?
It's okay, sir. You can continue.
Okay. Okay.
This way.
Okay. Well, so research. We were talking about the steps of research project. So identify the gap in the literature. So existing, of course, whenever we select any topic, we have a little bit of study on that, which creates
Sir,
interest
excuse
amongst
me.
us. Please.
Please share it again.
Oh,
Please.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Showing it again. Okay. Now, do you see?
It's
So,
it is visible.
Sir, sir, kindly enlarge your presentation, sir.
Sorry, sir.
Kindly enlarge your presentation. Sir.
Okay, enlarge. Go for a full screen. It's taking a little bit of time. Yeah. Now.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, it's visible.
So identification of gap in the existing literature is very much important. Without that, what we are searching would not be visible. So setting up or getting the gap between the existing literature, what we know and what we want to know, and what had been the gaps which had not yet been found amongst the existing literature is very much important. Then later on, choosing a methodology and method. So we will be trying to have a little bit more elaboration on methodology and methods later. Let's go to the next one, the proposal and ethical approval. Whenever we go for any sort of research proposal, presenting or submitting any research proposal, there must be ethical approval. And that research and analysis, then we come up, after collecting data through the methods, we come up with a research and analysis of the findings. We then write up the results, try to come up with a good report, edit and revise that. And finally, the final touch that comes in just before submitting the result. So methodology, methods. Let's try to understand what's the basic differences between these two. Well, methodology is the rationale behind your research and lens through which you will analyze your results. Let me give you some example. In terms of whenever we talk about methodology, we can come up with some three broad spectrum, like phenomenological or phenomenology, which actually describes the lived experience of a phenomenon, right? So ethnography, which is mostly followed by the anthropologist, looks at culture and the social norms and behaviors of a group. Sometimes some action research. It might be a political study, education, or any other issue, where a researcher usually gets into the uh, incident, gets into the research area, and research systematically looks at a problem and tries various solutions to see how effective they are. And methods are basically tools you will use to carry out your research. Tools means to collect your data. That example includes a survey or questionnaire, a focus group discussion, a case study, structured interviews, a controlled experiment. So all those things are parts of tools to collect data. So tools that are collected, that are used to collect data are methods, and the rationale or the lens through which we try to analyze the findings is methodology. So if you want to, or if we want to summarize it, methodology is how you will answer your research question, and the method is what you do to collect your data. Well, I hope we have now came to know on that. So there is a very popular question, qualitative and quantitative research, and what do they mean? What are the differences as well? So, for which research we should go for qualitative, and for which one we should go for quantitative. And there are some times we can come up with some, mixed methods as well. There are two major research paradigms. One is qualitative, and the other is quantitative. So qualitative research questions usually aim to explore a question with no set hypothesis beforehand. There may be sometimes, we'll be coming on that, a qualitative approach is more about gaining in-depth insight, that it is about empirical generalization that can be applied to a population. Okay, so the design of qualitative studies is it's naturalistic, looks at real-world situations as they unfold naturally, and there is a lack of preset limitations on findings. And it might be emergent. The researcher is open to adjusting his or her research question and methods to pursue new lines of inquiry as they emerge. So regarding qualitative, sometimes we mostly now try to come up with quantitative, very much popular nowadays, and it is believed that without quantitative study, without quantitative, without particularly, numeric studies, we mostly do not try to say it's very much scientific. But I believe sometimes only quantity or quantitative study cannot come up with the exact solution of our research question, or cannot solve the purpose that we truly look for. Quantitative research questions usually contain a hypothesis and or try to predict something. Sometimes you might know Karl Popper, falsification theory that he came up with. Usually in quantitative studies, a hypothesis is made. It may be a null hypothesis, or maybe it may just get close to the exact findings. Well, approaches in quantitative study includes descriptive, that is how much or how often, that is frequency study. And there are sometimes a comparative, what is the difference between in terms of numeric, and sometimes relationship based, that is correlational. What is the relationship between? So sometimes we may have some relation or correlation between variables and outcomes, and their relation as well. We try to come up with in terms of the number and frequency. So quantitative studies are characterized by tools that are carefully designed before data is collected, larger sample sizes, and the ability to be replicated. So the same model can be replicated wherever same types of data is produced or come up with. But for qualitative studies, we should keep in mind context is very much important. Time frame. Context, of course, include the background, the time frame, the overall settings. So regarding qualitative, we always cannot actually replicate, but in some cases, in quantitative studies, we can replicate the same model for the others. Well, which approach we actually, sorry, which approach is basically suitable for us? Before you decide the paradigm will best fit for your research question, think about what you want to know and the nature of research question, how you want to collect your data, and who you are as a researcher. So whenever, suppose as a social science researcher, as a political science graduate, we always try to come up with qualitative studies mostly, and we try to understand the phenomenon, right? Uh, and whenever we try to go for a quantitative research, we also need to understand our capacity as well, because tools, mathematical tools, and some what the fun is, you know, like SPSS. These some apps. These are very much important for research. Whether we are very much in capacity of using them or not is also very much important. Let's try to understand when we want to go for quantitative research and when we go for qualitative research. Usually, positivist paradigm. Positivist means whenever we see something, whatever the thing is, we try to describe, we try to get it exactly what it is, not any sort of predetermined or notion would be applicable. So usually positivist paradigm, it includes focus on facts, whatever the fact is, an unbiased and nonchalant focus, of course. Look for causality and fundamental laws. It actually reduces phenomena to simplest elements. Numeric. It formulates hypotheses and tests them. It usually operationalizes concepts so that they can be measured. It mostly takes large samples. So sample and population. I hope all of you would be getting to know in these sort of things, because 6-7 days long discussion would be there. I'm just coming up with the introductions only. So which research would be more qualitative in nature? The approach that includes is interpretivist paradigm, or we popularly known as constructivist. Usually in interpretation, we have some settings, some setups, like on the basis of my understanding, we have, like sometimes we often give one example that if a glass if there is a glass full of water, if anyone consumes half of the glass, and if you ask your students or the audience, how would you explain the glass of water? Some would be saying it's half empty, some would be saying it's half full. So it depends on how we explain. It depends on what result sometimes we try to get. It depends what standpoints I do have. So interpretivist paradigm focus on meanings. It try to understand what is happening. It try to look at the totality of each situation, of course, from both sides. Develop ideas through induction from the data. Inductive method is sometimes, in most cases, is followed. So use multiple methods to establish different views of phenomena. So, and of course, small samples investigated in depth over time, because you might know In qualitative approaches, if you have any in-depth phenomenological interviews with anyone, you can get huge amount of information. And of course, we need to choose and we need to choose the sample size. Of course, purposive sample size. It might be small, but it can give you the idea, the data very much closest to the fact. Well, qualitative research method, since we mostly, as a social science researcher, we mostly follow the qualitative one. I tried to come up with a few facts. The context, in-depth, dependent finding by evaluating a subject or a predicate. Popular researchers through communication, ethnography, and phenomenology. It's critical analysis and assessment of the findings to identify its veracity and integrity. Building negative hypotheses and compelling readers to think the other way. It can so happen. Growing dependency through intellectual decency and confirmation. So qualitative research, that is why sometimes are often said that, well, qualitative research, whether it is scientific or not, sometimes some researchers also come up with a conclusion that it might not be scientific at all. However, of course, it's scientific because research, whenever we talk about research, there is, of course, a scientific method. There is, of course, a structured and well-designed scientific methods of study, of collecting data. And there is, of course, a reasonable and rational methodological aspect as well. So as a research tool, research method, qualitative research, of course, bears huge significance. Well, choosing a methodology start with a research question. Think about research question and what information you need to address it. Consider the following. What kinds of data would help you answer this question? So framing a research question is very much important. What we want to find out, what we want to see, that is very much important. So how would you want to present your results? That is also important. In what method, qualitative, quantitative, or a mix, whatever you want to do, these questions we need to keep in mind to fix up any method. If it is more exploratory approach you are after, such as working to understand a phenomenon or the behaviors and experiences of a group of people, a qualitative paradigm might give you the best results. If you want to look for correlations, comparisons, relationships, or trends, a quantitative paradigm, of course, might work better. Well, if we want to talk about qualitative and quantitative research questions, what type of questions there might be? Well, for preparing these slides, I have, of course, taken generous support from University of Liverpool, some internet sources, many books. So I acknowledge their contribution and I express my gratitude to them as well. So simple questions, qualitative. What are UK university students' experiences trying to eat healthy on campus? So it is a qualitative question. If you want to go for a qualitative research, this sort of question, of course, may answer. How can expansive writing improve the mental health of incarcerated women in the US? What are UK secondary school students' perceptions about gender differences in mathematics intelligence? So perceptions, you can come up with a mixed method as well over there, because if you come up with a percentage as well, that can bring you both qualitative and quantitative for the last question. So sample research question for quantitative, like for descriptive, How regularly do UK online postgraduate students use optional academic support services? Frequency. So comparative, what is the difference in daily calorie intake between men and women in London? So of course, some quantitative study is required because exact number is very much important over here. And of course, the frequency in terms of sample size and population. Relationship based, what is the relation between job satisfaction and salary amongst expatriate workers? Well, over here, sometimes satisfaction level, when we want to measure it, mostly we follow Likert scale. You might be very much acquainted with 5 or 7 stages, like very much satisfied, satisfied, neutral, uh, not satisfied at all. I mean, if you want to talk about 5, scales, we'll be coming on that later. So some examples of qualitative methods. Individual face-to-face interviews of participants is very much important. Usually it takes 30 minutes, moderate. Sometimes if it is in-depth, it might go up to 4 to 5 minutes for each. Structured, sometimes semi-structured or unstructured interviews, it might take longer time. And I'm sure you are very much well acquainted with focus group discussion. 60 to 120 minutes. Sometimes, focus group discussion, of course, it may cover participants depending upon the size. Usually 5 to 10 is preferable, but sometimes you may have more. But you, of course, need to give them enough time to speak up. And of course, you just can through the idea and then get the information. A case study, observation, textual analysis, we mostly say or call it content analysis. Well, planning to take a qualitative approach, we should also consider, do we feel confident conducting interviews or focus groups? Although there are other possibilities, these tools are an important part of the qualitative approach. And do we recognize our role as a researcher? With a qualitative approach, the researcher accepts the data gathering and analysis as a value-laden process. So these things we should also keep in mind. Well, let me tell you a few pitfalls. Bobby, madam, would I be getting 8 to 10 minutes more instead of 3 more minutes?
Right, sir. You can.
Okay, thank you. So for students planning to use interviews or focus groups, we should be very much aware of the following. So equipment failure. Sometimes we go for, taking interviews, but, suppose, we have taken a recorder, but the battery is down. We cannot take it. And if any other equipment which is very much significant, we need to, like the exams, we need to cross-check it beforehand and then go for the interviews so that interviews are taken in a very smooth way. So environmental hazards, we also need to keep in mind that if the environment is distracting, then the interview might not give you the exact information or exact data that we are trying to collect. Suppose in any place we're trying to take an interview, which is very much noisy and some other, or think about there is a match between India and Pakistan, cricket match, which is a very high voltage match. And you are trying to take an interview of someone who is very much cricket lover. And there are some issues whenever he very often tries to look at the television or trying to check the score. So these are distractions. So whenever we take an interview, the interviewee should always keep in mind that the interviewer should always keep in mind the interviewee shall be distraction free. So any sort of distraction can make interpreting your data difficult and affect your respondents as well. Apart from that one, there are many more distractions. I hope you would be able to understand while doing this again and again. So transcription errors, that is also very much important an issue we should all keep in mind. We should be careful when transcribing material, as a misinterpretation can change the essence of what's being said. Also be aware of any colloquialism, jargon, or slang. And of course, colloquialism is very much important. Sometimes, whatever we try to answer, sometimes some connotation, some intonation can give you a different meaning. So if we want to come up with a literal meaning instead of understanding the intonation and what one respondents try to mean, then this can even backfire and can cause much damage to the existing research, because only sometimes a little bit of data, sometimes even we should, while interviewing, while getting interview face to face, we should also keep eyes on even the facial expressions, which is very much important. Well, examples of quantitative methods. A survey involving analysis of primary data collected using a structured questionnaire. Usually in surveys, we do provide a structured questionnaire. Statistical analysis of people's health data, comparison between two data sets, analysis of population trends. All these things are some examples of quantitative methods. However, even responses given in words can be turned into numbers and analyzed, like responses in a Likert scale. I was telling you regarding the satisfaction level. Suppose I have taken interviews of 100 students of any department, their satisfaction level in terms of getting support from library. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can convert them into some percentage, and the satisfaction level can be seen quite easily in Likert scale as well. Numerical responses to surveys is also very much significant, and of course, very much used in quantitative approaches. Whenever we plan to take quantitative approach, we should consider how many responses will we need to our survey or questionnaire to produce statistically significant findings. So population size, sample size, and representation in the sample is very much important. Because if we take a positive sample in quantitative data and we find that the exact figure is not coming up, like if you think that there are 100, or you can see in a particular building, if you think about there are 60 families in a large size building, and if you try to come up with the average income, suppose 2-3 families, they have average income of 3-4 million per annum, and some families, they have income of less than maybe 500,000 per annum, and you found that the average is in a position which actually does not represent the biggest or bigger number or the true scenario. Some families might have even less than that. Some families even have a very high number of that. So, finding out sometimes the exact data is important while sampling very smartly. So even sampling has, of course, some there is of course some techniques of sampling. I hope in the days coming after today, there will be a lot of discussion on those as well. You'll get to know more on that. Do you feel confident carrying out statistical analysis? Because since I said I'm a social science researcher, sometimes statistical analysis might not be comfortable for me. If I'm not good at math, if I do not understand the exact things that I need to understand while doing a quantitative research, then there would be common errors. And if being a researcher, is not comfortable with playing means I'm saying in noble intention, playing with data, playing with numbers, then quantitative approach is not for him or her. So will you have access to and to be able to use some kind of statistical software? Already I've mentioned SPSS, Strata, and many others are available nowadays. SPSS means Statistical Program for Social Sciences Researcher. So common pitfalls, usually not asking enough people. So too few participants makes it difficult to produce statistically significant findings. Treating a raw data like validated statistics. Numerical data needs to be interpreted and verified to be meaningful. I repeat, numerical data needs to be interpreted and verified to be meaningful. Using open-ended questions, these are difficult to quantify. But if you do not even keep some of the open-ended questions, sometimes some new phenomena, new sites might not be explored. A poorly designed survey, be sure that your questions are clear, free of biased or confusing language, and account for all possible answers. So these things, I think we should all keep in mind. So regarding ethical considerations of your research design, while designing your study, keep any potential ethical concerns or conflicts of interest in mind. Your advisor can help you think about the research design and guide you through the ethical approval process. So a few things we should all keep in mind: participant vulnerability. If they reply any question which might make them vulnerable in society, in their job, whatever it is, we should keep in mind that as well. The nature of the topic, if it is very much sensitive, we should all keep in mind the sensitivity. The consent, we all need to take the consent of the respondent that his or her name should not, would not be exposed or would be exposed. We should take the consent while taking interview. It's not that we are having an informal discussion and we just brought it into a structured questionnaire by the researcher and then using it in the research. No, we should take the consent that I'm taking your interview for this purpose, and this is the research process I'm trying to do. So if you have consent, you can respond. Confidentiality and anonymity, that shall be maintained, particularly in the survey process. If it is very much sensitive, of course, it is a must. Method for collecting data is very much important, and that shall be, of course, shall be guided by our supervisors. And researchers' vulnerability, which is very much significant. Whenever we sometimes, particularly in action research, the researchers' vulnerability shall be taken into consideration. Well, I think I have taken a little more time. If I can finish within last 2 minutes, if you want to sum up all the things together and some tips. The goal is to make sense of your data and to relate it back to a research question, how it addresses a gap in the literature. Be flexible in how you gather information, in how you understand and interpret the data. Check that you will be able to obtain permission to access the data and to use the findings freely. That is, a primary study is required for going for a broad spectrum research. That is, a feasibility study or pilot program is usually usually done or conducted before the actual research. Check that the analysis hasn't already been done and reported elsewhere. If it is so, then what's the use of new research? What's the use of spending your time, money, and energy? Remember that you cannot collect any data until after you have ethical approval. Very much important. You will likely end up with more data than you know what to do with. Avoid the temptation to just write it all down. Your analysis is crucial. That is, reduction of data is very much important. But while reduction, we should also keep in mind that the data which might bring a significant change in the result shall not be reducted. And we have to be very much unbiased, of course, in that very case. Your advisor is there to help you throughout the research process, of course. So if you have any question, I believe we can come up with. Poppy Madam, I hope you are there.
Yes, yes, yes.
If
I'm
there
there.
is,
Right, right. I'm there. Like we can leave the questions like after finishing the complete session, I think. Right?
okay, okay.
The participant can raise the questions.
Mhm.
Okay. So thank you so much, Sibley Norman sir, for sharing your valuable information on research methods and methodological approach, which is of basic essence in every field. I believe like everybody have benefited. Many participants, they have really congratulated and thanked you. Uh, if there is any sort of questions from the participant, they can raise after the session. I think that would help. So now I will request Sir Dr. Wasif Marajde. Like I really take the privilege to welcome Sir for sharing his valuable words of wisdom on the problems of plagiarism in writing a research paper, which is also very important. So I hope Sir is there. Yes.
Yes,
Sir, can you hear me?
yes, I'm here.
Yes.
Yes, I hear you. I hear
Yes,
you,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir. Sir was a doctor at Irbit National University, Jordan, where he was the head of the English department for 2 years, the head of department of translation, and head department of English classroom teacher. A TEFL specialist, he participated actively in many conferences both in Jordan and abroad. He is a member of many associations, both in the national and in the international forum. Now he is directing a private center for translation. So I welcome you, sir, wholeheartedly, and thank you so much for
Thank
accepting
you.
our request. Sir, over
Thank
to you,
you.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Wasif,
Uh,
Dr. Wasif,
yes,
Dr. Wasif, good
yes.
afternoon. I welcome you, sir. I welcome you.
Okay. Okay. You hear me?
Dr.
You hear
I'm
me
Dr.
now?
T. Shakti Rajamal. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I hear you.
I
Okay.
welcome you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I like to, first of all, the organizing committee, the esteemed patron, the co-patrons, the conveners, and the organizing secretaries, especially Dr. Rajmal and Dr. Bobby, who paid much attention. Always she is ready to answer the questions. Always we bother her. Day and night ask questions, and she is always ready to answer our questions. And also, a few minutes ago, we enjoyed the presentation of our colleague, Mr. Shibli Nu'man, who was ready and immediately did the presentation because of technical problems. Although technology has many merits, but sometimes we fell in the trap with some mistakes. May change the thing. Just either some time before or ahead or back. Okay, then I like my name, just to introduce myself. My name is Wasif Marashdi. I am the speaker now. Before I start presenting my paper, I like to greet all the speakers and participants, whoever they are. Good morning for those who have morning time now. Good evening for those who have evening time now. And good night for those who have a night time now. You are, I say. Then I say to the organizers, it is very great of you that you are able to collect all this collection of speakers from different parts of the world, from east, west, south, and north. You are great. Really, you are great. So you are blessed. God bless you all and bless your efforts. And also here, I like to give a special greeting to my teacher, Professor Himlata Talizra, she's my teacher, who guided me in my PhD dissertation at MS University of Baroda in Vadodara, Gujarat State. So best greetings to you, Madam Himlata. Really, I felt very happy when I saw your name between the speakers. Always I learn many new things from you. May God give you the long life and the best of health. Ladies and gentlemen, as you see, our meeting on the online today is one of the merits of modern technology. It makes the world so small. Now we communicate with each other, although there are big distances between us. This is, of course, the result of great efforts which are paid by the good people who all over the world who work for the benefit of all human beings, whatever their races and languages are. And this is, of course, one of the main goals of education, is to make the world a better place to live in. My paper is about a problem of plagiarism in writing research paper. Many students look at the problem of plagiarism as a serious problem from the point of view of the supervisor. They are surprised. Why do supervisors always insist that the researcher should avoid falling in the trap of plagiarism when they write their research papers? Many students feel that supervisors exaggerate in the seriousness of the issue. So some supervisors think some students treat the problem lightly because it is not an easy job to avoid plagiarism in writing research paper. But in fact, it is a serious problem. And students should pay much attention from the beginning of writing their research paper. The attention starts from the first step in searching for the title of the research. Students need to beware of getting into trouble through carelessness. Problem of plagiarism starts with the students who want to write a research paper. From the time they start collecting the data from their research for their research papers. Many students are asked to write a research paper at the end of their courses, but some of them did not study any course in writing research paper. So they start collecting any material from any source which is available to them. According to them, to have a good research paper is the one which obtains a good mark and a well-organized paper and neat and has good information about a certain topic. So they collect any material belongs to that topic they are going to write about. They do not pay attention to anything except to collect much data that belongs to their copies. So they copy most of the materials from the sources, books, magazines, periodicals, references, newspapers, dictionaries, encyclopedias, lectures, internet, and all sources which are available to them. Nowadays, with modern technology, everything is available in all subjects. It is available just in one click on the computer keyboard button. With the use of Google search, students can get much material about any subject they want, and the students sometimes many of them copy and paste the material they gather together without any changing in them, and they present them to the supervisors as their own words. Most of students who commit plagiarism problem do not know what plagiarism is. Because of that, they commit such a mistake, especially those students who didn't study any course in writing research paper. According to them, to write a research paper is to collect material which gives a piece of information about a certain subject. So the title, writing a research paper, may come from in different forms. In some universities, they call it methods of writing research paper. Other universities call it methodology of writing research paper. Others call it scientific methods of research. Of course, here, this course has nothing to do with science. By scientific methods, they mean that the researcher has to follow certain steps from one step to another until he finishes writing his paper. In brief, if I say that plagiarism is pretending other person's ideas as they are the researcher's own ideas, even their words. Now, and many people say when writing their research paper, and others say, they say, and others say. If you know the others, why did you mention them? Why did they say their names? If you read and somebody may say, or others have certain view, who are the others? Since you know them, why did you mention them? So how do we know that the piece of information or the idea which are presenting in your thesis, is it yours or somebody else? How do we know that? This is the real plagiarism which students commit in writing, or researchers commit in writing the research paper. So if you know the others, why do you say others say? Why did you make the documentation? Okay. Now, to give you a real example about those students who commit the problem of plagiarism. Once at the end of the courses which I used to teach, I asked the students to write a research paper as part of evaluation of that course at that level. All students are expected that they studied the course of writing research paper as a prerequisite of the course which I teach. So, as a teacher, according to the study plan of the department, all students had studied how to write a research paper. And after submitting the papers, the teacher has to discuss the papers with the students individually to be sure that students did their works by themselves. At that course, I asked the students to write a paper between 10 to 12 pages by referring to 3 to 4 references only, no more than, not to bother them. The surprise was that I found one of the students had submitted a paper of 55 pages, and at the end of the paper, there are 150 references. Oh, too much. How did he correct that amount of references? I asked 10 to 12 pages, 3 to 5 references, and the surprise that the students submitted a paper with 55 pages with 150 references. The paper she presented was a very neat and a well-organized paper. No grammatical mistakes, no spelling mistakes. Everything is clear in that paper. Even no punctuation mistakes. Perfect. But the paper starts from page number 11. So in the discussion, I asked the student, did you write the paper by yourself or somebody helped you in writing it? She said that she wrote it by herself from A to Z. And she knows everything in that paper. On page number 12, she wrote, see the diagram which is on page number 7. So I returned to page number 7, but the page is not there. The paper started from page number 11. So I asked her about that. Why did you start your paper from page number 11 and not from page number 1? She was astonished and shocked. She said many students told me that teachers are interested in the shape of submitting the paper only. They do not pay any attention to the content. So many times, even the doctors or teachers do not even read the paper. They are interested in the title, which is on the external cover. She said that was the first time she heard that teachers read the whole paper. Then I asked her if teachers do not read the papers. The papers which the students submit to them, how do they give marks to the students? How do teachers decide whether the paper is correct or not correct? How do the teachers evaluate the content of these papers without reading them? You are accusing the teachers. You are accusing the supervisor. You are accusing anyone who was supervised or teaches or responsible for correcting a paper which is presented to the department. That student was unlucky. When I asked her whether she wrote her paper by herself or somebody helped her in that, she insisted that she did it by herself. But when I asked her why she started from page number 11, she was confused and surprised. Then I asked her, did you go to the library of university so and so? She said yes, but how did you know? I told her that this paper is an MA thesis, which I was the sub-guide of that student who wrote it. Then she said, sir, really, I didn't study any course in methods of writing research paper. And I got a copy of the thesis and copied it, but because it has the same title which I am required to write about. And I left pages from 1 to 10 in the front at the beginning of the thesis because they have the title, the name of the writer, the date of submission, the name of university, and the introduction, and many things which I do not need in my paper. And this is the real and cure and the essence of plagiarism. Just to do it, but she said, her excuse said that she did not study any course in writing research paper. Because of that, she commits such a mistake. Had she studied any course in writing research paper, I'm sure she will not do that. Okay, this is just an example of one of the students who committed plagiarism without knowing what does plagiarism mean. Another student, in the discussion of his MA thesis, his thesis was about comparison between cultures. I was an external examiner in the discussion committee. He used many expressions from different cultures. One of the expressions he used was the day of boxing, and he repeated many times. So I asked him, what do you mean by day of boxing? He was shocked and paused for a moment. And then he said, it is that day of playing boxing. It is a type of sport. Did you know boxing? And that in that day, people compete between each other. At that moment, his supervisor shouted about him and said, how does that come? How did you write things which you didn't know their meanings? It is the day which comes before Christmas, when Papa Noel visits children at night, and puts boxes which have gifts in them near their heads while they are sleeping. Then the student said, in fact, sir, I copied this piece of information from a book, but I was in a hurry and I didn't check the meaning of that expression. I thought that it is, since it is boxing, it belongs to sports and it is type of sport. Of course, the student commits a mistake. He copied material and pasted it in his thesis without knowing its meaning. The student here is blamed. The teacher is also blamed, not following the students step by step, especially it is an MA thesis, not a PhD dissertation. So it is when the students write his MA thesis, it should be in continuous supervision from beginning of writing his thesis. So from the time the student starts writing his research paper and they start collecting the data from the sources which are available to him, I see that he should have two types of cards in order to avoid plagiarism. One type is called note card, which is 4 by 6 inches, like this card, 4 by 6 inches, and it is lined from two sides, 4 by 6 inches. And the other type of card is called one bibliography card. It's called a bibliography card. It is 3 by 5, and it is lined from one side. Why is the first one lined from two sides and the other one is lined only from one side? On the note card, which is lined in two sides, in the first side, the researcher takes the quotation in brief, and he should leave a good margin here and takes one idea in one card, not two or three ideas, and not to write from top to bottom, only one or two ideas, in case that he needs this idea to be put in one chapter of the research or the thesis. It is easy for him to carry, to write that piece of information in that, or to carry the card. On the back of the note card, he has to write documentation, full documentation. He has to write the author's name, the title of the book, the publisher, the publication, the publishing place, date of publication, and if the book, and he should write the page number. The page number is necessary in case while the researcher is writing his thesis. It is easy for him, if something is he is in doubt, easy for him to return back to that reference from the documentation which is written on the back of that card. So he easy to return back to that book and check whether he need more or less, or especially in extending or narrowing. If the thesis is so broad, how to narrow it, or thesis is very narrow to extend it. This topic will be discussed by one of our respected colleagues in the coming few days. So he should it has, because of that, it has, the note card has two faces. One face for writing the note, and the note should be written in the researcher's own words. Not to write everything as it is there in the source which he collected, or which he checked. He should write in his own words. His writing should be either paraphrasing, or summarizing, or taking the note, the note as it is, as a quotation. If he finds that This quotation should be written as it is. It is necessary to be there. It should be written as a quotation with the documentation below. And if he thinks that the idea is enough, okay, he writes, but in his own words, not in the author's words. And for the bibliography card, it is one line is lined from one side and the other, because when the searcher is collecting, is searching, the process of writing the research paper goes in 3 stages. And it will be clarified by the specialist who will talk about that. It should be searching, reading, and writing. So in the process of searching, the researcher is whether in the library and the internet and any source of and the place of finding resources, any book which has relation to the topic which he's writing about, he should write a bibliography card for that book. He should write the author, the publisher, publishing place, date of publication, and the call number if it is in the library. If that book is in the library, he should write the call number as you see here on the screen. So this is one of the ways of preventing plagiarism. To avoid plagiarism in writing a research paper, the researcher has to take one note on a card, but not to copy a piece of information. So, and we said that it is either he has either to paraphrase, summarize, or may quote if it is necessary. That is when he believes that the words or ideas expressed by his source are so vivid and powerful that the meaning cannot be captured in paraphrasing or summarizing them. In this case, he has to mention the name of the author, the source, whether in the net. So somebody may say, okay, if I take it from Google search and took it from the internet, even so, you have to write who is the author, the title of the source, then the date of publication, the publisher, even in the net. It is not excuse to say this is the internet and easy. Who searches? Who knows that I took from the internet? Okay. The examiner, I'm coming. The examiner, the creative examiner will know that it is taken, it is cheating, it is plagiarism, it is not your own words. So the creative examiner knows. So he has to be honest, and to show that this piece of information is not his, is not the researcher's, it is taken from somebody else. But if he quotes from a certain route, now with the documentation, he clarifies, he acknowledges that this is the credit of so and so, Mr. So and so. Some students, after collecting a piece of information by copying it as it is, they change some words by their synonyms, thinking that they paraphrase them, but they keep the meaning as it is. The structure, the diction, the style is the same. It is not theirs. So it is also a kind of plagiarism. So to change the meaning of a word, instead of having number 12, to cross it and say dozen. And instead of sons and daughters are children. You are cheating. You are playing with the words only. But the idea, the diction. When you write with your own diction, your own way of writing, from beginning till the end, the writing, the information is going smoothly, step by step, from one chapter to another. But if you take from here and from there, the person, the same as the person who are jumping, walking in the street and jumping, not walking smoothly on the above the street. Any reader who reads, anyone who reads the paper that you wrote and submitted to the supervisor or to the university or the department, he immediately feels that there's something here, something wrong. The same as somebody jumping. So why don't you go smoothly by your own words from beginning to end? Write in your own words. You write your own ideas. Take from others. And your MA is not required to invent things or to discover things. In MA thesis, you are required to gather information, to gather ideas from here and there concerning the topic, and to put them in new shape, in your own ideas, and give your opinion. But in PhD dissertation, you have to give something in you. So do not fail in the problem of plagiarism. Whatever the paper you are writing, whatever the aim, the purpose of writing your own word, do not feel, yeah, it needs effort. It is very difficult. It is hard, but the fruits are excellent. You have good experience. Your language is improved. Your ideas are improved. Everything will be good in your paper. So sometimes if the students didn't write a clear documentation for a piece of information on the note card, how? This is the note card. You write here a piece of information, but you did not write a quotation mark. You here that this is not yours. You write the documentation, the source, but you did not the quotation mark. And when you copied it in your thesis or in your writing, you forgot because the quotation mark is not written here. It is not indicated. So you write it as it is a quotation, but quotation mark is not there. So anyone who reads it thinks that it is yours. In fact, it's not your own words or ideas. It is taken from somewhere else. So this is one of the ways of committing plagiarism intentionally. You do not mean it, but because you neglect writing this piece of information, you fell in that trap. So when they start writing that piece of information in their papers, it will be clear to them that that piece of information is not a quotation because they missed the quotation mark. So this is also kind of plagiarism. So the researcher should write a clear documentation for each piece of information he takes on the back of the card. Here, the piece of information immediately, even if you are taking the note or the quotation or the piece of information from the internet, make a documentation for that piece of information to be sure that from where, the source, from where did you take that piece of information. So, even if he doubts about a certain idea, it is easy for him immediately to go back and check the source. Check for the source for that piece of information. Nowadays, with the availability of modern technology, writing research papers become easier than before because of the availability of different sources, and the researcher can reach them in an easy way. Just as Google search, ask Google search about any type of information, in one press of the button of one of the buttons of the keyboard, the piece of information will be between your hands. Okay, now what to do with this information? It is not yours. What to do? To collect, just to write the ideas and the information one after the other and to submit and to say that it is yours? Okay. As much as it becomes easy to get the information in an easy way, it becomes dangerous also to fall in the problem of plagiarism. Many students collect many ideas from many sources. Any idea they think that they has any relation to their topics, then after collecting enough material, they send them to some company or establishment who is specialized in doing editing, proofreading, or paraphrasing, or summarizing them and produce them in a new shape without any doubt that there is plagiarism at all. See, but they are people, they are companies, specialists, and for that they do that for, of course, for they are paid for that. After this procedure, the plagiarism rate is 0. If you put it in the plagiarism checker, no plagiarism at all, because it's rephrased. It's completely rephrased, completely summarized. Here comes the turn of the supervisor to discover the real situation of that research paper. By asking the student just a few questions about his research, immediately he discovers that the examiner discovers that it is not the students' own words or ideas, but they are taken from other people and reviewed by certain person or company until they look like a good research and without any plagiarism at all. Give an example. Some people say, someone may say that, is it possible? How can the examiner check the things which are checked and prepared by Google search or by companies or authorities who are specialized in that? Who is this creative examiner? I say all examiners are creative. All examiners know their work because they have many experiences, and experiences taught them how to discover plagiarism. So warning, I warn the students who write research papers, pay attention. Your supervisors, your examiners are very intelligent. Do not say that if you go to take from Google from here or there, you will escape. Pay attention. Examiners, your supervisors are very intelligent, and do not put yourself in the problem of plagiarism. Now, give you an example. One of the students was asked his supervisor to help him in selecting a title for his thesis in teaching English as a foreign language, TEFL, field of TEFL. So the supervisor advised him to go and search, read books, journals, periodicals, theses, dissertations in the topic. Then he decides on the title he chose. The student started working on the topic. 1 month after, the student told his supervisor that his thesis is ready and he is ready for the discussion. The supervisor had a look at that thesis. He checked the table of contents, but the surprise was that everything was confused. He went through the thesis and found that the thesis is about the importance of using English language between nurses in their work. And it has nothing to do with TEFL. The strange thing is in the issue is that the student insisted that the teacher to present him for the discussion committee. Of course, the supervisor rejected his demand, and but the student requested his teacher once again, many times, to present him to the discussion committee on his own responsibility, of course. So the supervisor agreed under pressure and presented him to the discussion committee. The first question to him by the discussion committee was, would you please give the committee a brief summary about your research paper? The student was impressed and couldn't give anything to them. When the examiner asked him who wrote the research for him, he said that one professional writer prepared everything for him, and his turn is only to memorize the thesis. Then he will be ready for the discussion. And of course, he failed in that discussion and failed in that exam because of the plagiarism which was committed by the expert. Of course, the expert did his job well, but the problem is with the student. who was unable to memorize. The expert told him that you have to memorize. But it is not easy if you do not do the work by yourself. It is not easy to memorize 50 or 60 pages by heart and to know everything and to be ready to answer any questions. Of course, it's impossible. So now the rate of quotation, rate of quoting. Some people say they shuffle between rating, between quoting and rewriting the other authors' ideas. Some of them say, sir, but we are allowed to have at least 20% or up to 20% of our research paper to be taken from outside. Yes, yeah, to be taken, but you have to take as a quotation. A quotation means with the complete documentation, and not in all fields of knowledge. In literature, you can do it. In literature, you can do it. And how is that? It may come to some of them to write up to 20%, but this may happen only in literature. But in literature, if he talks about a poem, or he wants to explain a poem, or as a part of a scene in a play, or a passage from a novel or short story, he can do it. But in this way, it is only a quotation, and quotation is allowed up to 20%, but not in all, as I said, and not all fields. Since the Caesar indicates the sources of the material, the sources in the quotation. Of course, this is not plagiarism. This is only a quotation and not plagiarizing. So, in writing a research paper, plagiarism is not allowed at all. Now we come to rules of avoiding plagiarism. According to James Lister, in his book Writing Research Paper, he says that let the reader know when you begin borrow from the source by introducing the quotation or paraphrase with the name of the authority. That is, mention the name. Tell from where did you get this piece of information. If you want to quote, to avoid plagiarism, do not pretend other person's ideas. But if there's a quotation, put it in between the quotation brackets, between two quotations from beginning till the end of the quotation, to tell the reader that this is taken from, of course, with complete documentation, not only mention the name, but here you have to mention the page number even. Number 2, enclose within quotation marks all quoted materials. Do not start with a quotation and leave it without closing. We have to enclose it to say that now the speakers or the author's words are stopped. After that comes your words, you write in your words. Number 3, make certain that paraphrase material has been written into your own style and language. The simple rearrangement of sentence patterns is unacceptable. That is, you have to write in your own words, in your diction, your style, your ideas. Number 4, provide specific in-text documentation for each borrowed item, but keep in mind that styles differ for MLA, APA, and number of system and the footnote system. that if you write, if the researcher writes in the source, he uses ABA documentation system. You have to use it to indicate, and do not pretend that these are your words, because it is easy for the reader to discover. If you if you take a piece of information from a source, and that source is documented with MLA documentation system, and you put it in ABA documentation system, it's clear that no need to ask anybody. It's clear that the sunlight, that it is not your own ideas, because you are using MLA documentation instead of ABA documentation system. Or if, as you know, when writing the research paper, if you use, the difference in documentation, in ABA, they write the surname, then first name in brief, and then the date. While in MLA, they write the author, title of the book underlined, and the last thing they write is the date of publication. So it's easy for any examiner to discover that these ideas or piece of information are taken from here or there, but for sure they are not yours. Otherwise, you are easy to be discovered. The same thing happens with the footnote and endnote. If in that source the researcher uses the footnote documentation system, that the notes below. In footnote documentation system, every page is separate from the other pages. Every page, whatever the notes are taken in that page, they are written below, and at the bottom of the page, and they start in every page. There is a separate number from 1 up to till the end. While in the note documentation system, EndNote, all the notes are given serial numbers from beginning till the end of the research. All the notes are written at the end of that. So it's a completely different system. So it's easy for anyone to discover that these things are not yours. These ideas are not yours. So if you want to avoid plagiarism, follow these rules. Then number 5, provide a bibliography entry with the works cited for every source cited in the paper. Every source, works cited, and one of the edited books or edited articles, they take that as so and so, and he cited, he checked, or he took a piece of information within the research itself. Some new researchers, new students who start writing research papers without knowing these rules, they take the words as they are, and they say this is not the author system, let's take from somebody else. No, you have even these ideas, since they are not yours, you have to write them and to make the bibliography. You have to give details about who is the author, who is the source. Is it a journal, a periodical? And you have the complete documentation, the pages, the page numbers, where it was published. So websites also should be documented, because they are not yours. Anything which does not belong to you, you have to write here to avoid plagiarism. I told you from the beginning that to avoid plagiarism, it is not easy at all. It is not easy, but it makes you an expert after writing the research paper, because you know everything. You know how to summarize, how to paraphrase, how to give new ideas, and this, of course, makes you think of new things. But so to avoid plagiarism makes you a scholar, an expert in writing the research paper. So at the end, so to avoid plagiarism, the researchers has to, first of all, he has to study as a course in methods of writing research paper. Do not go and write a paper without knowing from where to start and how to write, how to take the notes, from where, what are the sources, what are the problems that you may face, how many note cards. If you write a research paper and would know without knowing anything about the thesis, about the problem of the study, about the questions of the study, about the hypothesis of the study. Now, the same if you know the same, you become an expert. The same as the one who has to prepare a cake, piece of cake at home. He brings some corn, some fat, some sugar, some instead of he needs 100 grams, and he bought 1 kilograms. 1 kilogram. He needs a bucket of fat. He bought 4 or 5 buckets. He needs 1 or 2 eggs. He bought a dozen of eggs. He bought extra material, extra materials for preparing the cake. That person who prepares the cake for 2 persons or 2 or 3 persons, while he's preparing, comes up to his mind that why didn't I enlarge this cake, this piece of cake? Why don't I enlarge the size? And now he has to go back to the grocery and to buy new things. But to buy new things, it's not easy to go back to start from the beginning for the researcher. So when the researcher starts collecting the data, he should have a pile of cards, good number of cards, and he collects a number, good number. If he needs 10 note cards, he should prepare 100. If he needs 100, prepare 200, 300 note cards. Why should he do that? Because in case in any moment he needs to add, to extend the hypothesis, to narrow the hypothesis, to enlarge, to add a new idea, to omit an idea. As you know, writing the research paper should be, the chapters should be balanced. The introduction, the literature review, the result, the result discussion, the methodology, the research should be balanced. So after writing, comes the reading and rereading and then revising until the ideas are clear and the researcher at that time ready to submit. So he has to know, the researcher has to know what should the parts of the research paper include in each research, and what should each chapter include, how to search for a piece of information, how to make notes, how to summarize or paraphrase, how to quote, and how to join the ideas together. He has to depend on himself in searching for information. Of course, with the help, with the referring to the supervisor to take his advice, to take his directions. He has to take the notes which are necessary for the research paper. And on the back of the note cards, he should write a clear documentation of those notes. Whatever the notes are, if the writer found that some of the notes are necessary for the research paper, he should mention the source of the notes in detail. He should show that those notes are not the researcher's notes, but they are taken from another source. If the researcher does this, I'm sure he will be able to write a very good research paper, and he or she will be able to answer any question about his thesis, whoever the examiner is and whoever the source is. By this, ladies and gentlemen, respected colleagues, I like to thank you all. Thank you very much for all the listeners, the participants, the speakers, and thanks to all the people who were patient for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Like, it was really a wonderful session, and I was observing your background. Your background, really. I mean, that shows your, your interest and your motivation to be with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
To avoid, madam, to avoid plagiarism, this is my last speech. This is a conference. This is a paper in the conference. So to avoid the plagiarism, we have to mention where did we speak.
I know. That's wonderful.
Because we are talking about plagiarism.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Wasap sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Wasap sir, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
The sessions were really enlightening, sir. It's really enlightening, and I think all the participants must have benefited. And if there are certain questions from the participants. Like, take for example, I'll just pick few. There are several questions.
Yeah.
Ma'am, some participants. Ma'am, some participants want to talk to him.
Oh, okay, fine.
I added panelist, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, please unmute and ask.
Yes, I'm with you. See, Dr. Bubi, because we are talking about plagiarism, I put the sign of the conference behind me to show that I'm not talking in a lecture in my university or my center. I am in the conference of this respected conference in this university.
Right, so you're visiting India.
I am there.
Okay. Yes, visited India. Well, Shiva Shakti madam, which participant has asked him to
participants, please unmute yourself.
Unmute and ask questions.
Yes, they are welcome.
Dear participants, dear panelist participants, unmute yourself.
I think we can just go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Yes,
no, because of time factor.
No one, not yet ready. Okay.
Yeah, probably if they can write to us, if we can, further assist. Right.
Answer
So,
box.
Right. What are the tools available online for free to check for plagiarism? Yes, sir.
Plagiarism checker. There are sites. There are sites on Google.
Okay.
Just write plagiarism checker and put the text there. Immediately it gives you it gives you the rate. How much plagiarism in that paper?
Okay.
It is called plagiarism checker.
Okay. So this is a question to Shibli sir. How can we describe the controls and variable to have control of error in both quantitative and qualitative studies?
Yes, madam.
Yes, sir.
Please, could you please repeat?
Yeah, it's there in the question answer part, sir. You can just have a look at the. There's many questions. Sir Madhu Kumar. Sir Madhu Kumar has raised a lot of questions.
How can we describe the controls and variables to have control of error in both quantitative and qualitative studies? What is the difference between limitations and delimitations of research problem? What is called null hypothesis? Questions. Okay. So let me start with the last one, which one we call null hypothesis. Usually in quantitative methods, a hypothesis is made, which is quite sometimes, in most cases, quite opposite to the expected outcome. And whenever we can prove it with two options, either yes or no, if we can prove it and hypothesize and make a hypothesis that it would be yes, we make a hypothesis it would be no. So whenever we can nullify it, we call this one a null hypothesis. Karl Popper, if you just go through that, Karl Popper, you can easily understand what is null hypothesis.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Apart from that one, just a moment, I better come up with the, okay, where is the question answer? Okay, so a few more questions to meet. Controls and variables. Well, it depends totally upon you, how, I mean, with what variable you would be working with and what things you'd be take as constant. So it depends upon the system, it depends upon the context, and of course, the perspective you are coming up with for the research. That depends mostly upon you.
Right.
And the second part, you have asked another one, limitations and delimitations of research problem. That's really interesting. I mean, well, limitations, we always come up with saying humble limitation that whenever we cannot explore all the sites, and sometimes with some constant made or with some of the sites that we acknowledge as if these remains constant. So sometimes those all are not constant at all. We call that a limitation, as well as the things that we could not explore, the things that we leave behind for the later on researchers, we also term or acknowledge them as limitations. Delimitations, actually, if you want to delimit, sky's the limit. Research, if you just keep researching and keep searching, I believe sky's the limit. And if there is any other supplement that is required, I believe Wasif sir is always there to be answering. Sir, if you allow me, I would like to tell one more thing. One was probably asking regarding checking of the plagiarism, right? So plagiarism or plagiarism, whatever you say, it is, you can check it in a licensed version of Turnitin as well. That is popularly used in Bangladesh nowadays. Similarity check. If you, it's quite cheap, I believe. For 1 year, you can, in Bangladeshi taka, it is almost 1,000, maybe in Indian rupees, 850 rupees for a year. So you can use that one as well. So thank you for asking questions, and I think we should move to Wasif sir for his enlightening, of course, answers.
But I may ask Mr. Really, I like your paper and I like your readiness, Dr. Shibli Noman. I like your readiness when Dr. Bobby said, are you ready? Say, yes, I'm ready. So is it possible to write a thesis with one hypothesis only?
With one hypothesis only? Well,
Yes.
she was probably asking about the quantitative method.
Positive or negative? Positive or negative? Is it possible to write?
Well, regarding the hypothesis,
yeah.
Well, in qualitative methods, hardly do we come up with a hypothesis. Even without a hypothesis, we can go on with exploring and then finally coming to a conclusion. But regarding quantitative, for nullifying any of these, we need to make a hypothesis.
Okay.
I was just trying.
Can we say that in directed researches, we use only one hypothesis, that is positive hypothesis?
No. I'm not saying that merely one hypothesis can be the solution. Of course not.
Okay.
Not merely one.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, if there are any questions, you are most welcome.
Okay. Should I say something? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, like I think we can switch to the next question. Is there any participant who wish to ask question?
Either in such case, either the speakers are very good, or and the listeners are very good, so the message is completely conveyed, or both. The speakers and the participant, the listeners are very good. Because of that, they conveyed the message and it is received.
Right.
That is very much optimistic,
right.
I believe.
Is there any participant who wishes to ask question?
Chat box is the question, sir.
Yeah.
Chat box.
Yes, yes. Like there are certain questions regarding selecting of the sample size and all. Everything will depend upon the title, the area, isn't it? So,
Madam, one more question is there from Dr. Nagaraj. Hello.
yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Sir, why we have to prepare only null hypothesis?
Okay.
Well, it's not that you always need to do it to prepare only null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is required to validate your research. Why are you spending so much money, so much effort, so much time behind any research? If you just can hypothesize and come up with a conclusion that for this one, I had this hypothesis, and after researching, this is true. So your hypothesis, if you can nullify it, only then you can say that, yes, my research had been truly valid. I had a hypothesis of this one, and now after doing lot of work, after spending much money, much time, much effort, I'm finding that this one had not been correct. That hypothesis I've made. That is why we try to just to validate it, that your research had been truly effective and it was truly necessary.
Sorry, a question asked by Jayanti madam. Ma'am.
From Sanjay, what are the major factors that causes plagiarism? Sir, what's up, sir?
Factors that consist plagiarism.
What are the major factors that causes plagiarism?
Okay, neglecting documentation. Neglecting, if you do not write good documentation, complete documentation, of course, the researcher is plagiarizing. We said from the beginning of writing the research paper, the researcher or the writer should have note cards with him, whatever the source he is taking from, and on one side of the note card he has to take the idea or the piece of information. On the back, immediately he should write the documentation. From where did he get that piece of information? And to avoid pretending, to avoid saying that somebody say or others say, just to mention that who said that. Since he knows them, why don't you mention the names? If you read it in a source, even in the internet, taking the piece of information from internet is not an excuse that I don't know, it is only a site. Okay, it is a site. Document, write the site. That this is taken from here. This is not from my own words. This taken, this information is taken from this site. Otherwise, you are pretending. Anybody here who reads the information or the paper thinks that this is your own words, although they are not yours. So the only way to escape from plagiarizing is to write the information and to do the documentation in detail. Everything. 5 things should be mentioned: author, title of the book, publisher, publishing place, date of publication, in addition to page number. Page number is necessary when there is a quotation. But for every book in the bibliography card, we said that the researcher had to prepare a bibliography card, a small one, lined from one side, because he uses only one side, while in the note card uses two sides. So in the bibliography card, he should mention 5 elements to avoid plagiarism? Author, title of the book, publisher, publishing place, date of publication. In addition to page number, of course. If the searcher follows that, I'm sure he will not fall in the problem of plagiarism.
Sir, another doubt by Mrs. Jayanti to Vasaf sir. Sometimes if even we write our own words, it shows us plagiarism. Why?
Yeah, self-plagiarism, what's it called, self-plagiarism. Yeah, by this you are translating, you are using synonyms. You vary the words, but if you write in your own words, the idea in your own words, it's not plagiarism. Take the idea and write it in your way, your diction, your style. Do not write the same way, the same punctuation mark, the same number, the same system of documentation, ABA or MLA or footnote or endnote. Write in the way, the system that you use from beginning till the end of the paper. At that time, nobody doubts that you have taken anything from outside, because you are giving your own ideas, and this makes you present a clear and correct research paper.
Sir, there is another question.
Yes.
Can we avoid plagiarism if paraphrased material is rewritten?
I didn't get some of the
Yeah,
words.
like,
Can we
yes,
avoid plagiarism
if paraphrased material is rewritten?
Material is rewritten. Rewritten for what reason? Is it
like,
rephrasing? Is it rephrasing? Paraphrasing?
No,
editing?
Yes, that will depend.
It is plagiarism. This is not your ideas.
Yes.
But take the idea, understand it, and then write it in your own words.
Hello.
See, if you understand it, educationists say, all of you are good educationists. Educationists say, if you want to learn anything, any material, teach it. You cannot teach any material without understanding it. And you cannot write without understanding. If you understand the material, it's easy for you to write in your own words.
Right.
By this, you did not write, but it is not rewriting. Now you are writing your own words. You are writing the same idea, but your own words.
Absolutely.
And nobody objects against that.
Right, sir. I think Dr. M. Madhukumar is clear about it.
This is Nancy Gupta. Can you...
Sir, from Bollam, Karunakar, are there any exclusions from plagiarism in writing research paper? Are there any exclusions from plagiarism in writing research paper?
Are there any excuses in writing research paper?
Are there any exclusions from plagiarism in writing research paper?
Inclusion. I didn't get the question.
Exclusion, sir.
Exclusion. And writing research paper.
Yes.
Okay. If you follow taking the notes and searching from the beginning till the end, you are out of writing. But to say that I'm excused to write and to use plagiarism in writing, no excuse. Plagiarism should be zero. Nobody is allowed to write. Quote. If you want to take piece of information, quote it, but do not pretend that it is yours. Quote it. You are allowed. Why not? Take a quotation and but document. Say that this is not mine. But since you do not make a quotation, it means that these are your own words. You are plagiarizing. So you're not allowed to do that. But read the text, understand it, rewrite in your own words, and it becomes yours. You are not plagiarizing without any comment at all. Just do it yourself. But as one of the students once said, he said that we are allowed to take up to 20% in our papers from outside our words. Okay, yes, this is in some kinds of knowledge, some types of knowledge, but it should be documented, but not plagiarizing. This is documentation. Taking take a quotation. You can take many quotations as much as you can, but not to extend the rate which is allowed in writing the research paper. Some scholars say that the researcher is allowed in some genres of knowledge up to 20%. It's if you want to take a scene or a passage from a poem, how to write a poem in your research without taking the quotation, to write the poem as it is. You have to write the poet's words. Otherwise, you are explaining the poem, or you are paraphrasing. You are the text loses its meaning. So sometimes we find ourselves that we are insisted to write the words as they are. By this, we use the quotation. We use the quotation and not the paraphrase or summary.
From Greece, if we include the explanation regarding the peculiarities of a place or object as a part of the theoretical background from some magazines or books, will it be plagiarism? If we include the explanation regarding the peculiarities,
include them.
Yes, sir.
And we take it from them. They are sources. They are sources, the same as any other source. Periodicals, journals, newspapers, lectures at the university, they are not yours. The information is not yours. Even in the lecture at the university, you have to say that in lecture at the university, they have to write documentation. Dr. So-and-so said that. You have to write. But not only internet. Some people say you can't go to the internet, to Google, and take, who knows that you have taken from this site. Okay, no, you're a scholar, you are creative supervisor, no. He knows. So do not try to trick him. He is awakened. So even if you take it from the internet, journals, periodicals, newspapers, lectures, whatever the source is, we have CDs in the library, films, macrofilms. You have to document, to write. From where did you get? Otherwise, you are pressurizing. And this is a thing which I hope that all researchers try to avoid in order to give a new thing. And the most benefit that the researcher gets from avoiding plagiarism is he has, by the end of the research, he has good amount of knowledge. He becomes expert. He analyzes, studied, analyzed, and paraphrased. He does many things. So these things which he did now are in his mind, and in the future, writing a research paper, the second research paper will be easier than the first one. The third will be easier, and until he becomes a good author and a good writer.
Sir, from M. Jayanti, Dr. Vasap, sometimes even if we write our own words, it is so as plagiarism. Why?
If we?
Sometimes even if we write our own words, it is so as plagiarism. Why?
No. You are writing your own words. You are your own ideas, your diction. But if you take it from another work, you have to indicate. If you take as a quotation, if you take a quotation from other book or other work that you have done, you have to document that. So Dr. Wasif said in his book, so and so. But if you write the idea in your own words, no need for documentation. It is yours. It's your own way to write the words. But if you quoted from one of the works, you have to indicate that this is mentioned, this is published, and is available in libraries and all over the world. And now it is not easy to hide any piece of information all over the world, because it is easy to be checked. Anybody can reach. Now your name, you are at a conference. After 1 hour, we are right. Who is Dr. Siva Sakfi Ajmal? Nobody knows. No, she attended the conference and she gave everything, your birthday, your celebration, your everything is given to you. Now we are the era of knowledge. The person has to count to 10, from 1 to 10, 100, before he says that this thing is done or this is not done. It's easy. Things are now computerized. Libraries, knowledge, information, everything is computerized nowadays in the internet. So better to be on the safe side.
Sir, Norman sir from Anisha.
Yeah.
Norman sir. Norman sir, if you don't mind, please say the meaning of inductive and deductive method once again.
Okay, inductive and deductive. Inductive is whenever we have research on a particular segment and we make a general statement for the whole population. That is inductive. And whenever we come from a general statement, from a general issue, come down to a particular one, that is deductive. Deductive method or deductive explanation, it was firstly done by Plato. And inductive,
yes,
it was firstly done by
okay, thank you.
Aristotle. Probably there we have got, Madam, I've got another question, maybe Dr.
Yes,
Girish, he was asking, which research design is more appropriate for qualitative research? Well, it totally depends upon the topic you choose. It may be ethnographic, it may be action research. Whatever it would be, it depends totally upon the topic you choose, upon the side you want to go for research. Questions.
Madam, are you able to hear?
Yes, yes. Dr. Bobby ma'am.
Yes.
Dr. Bobby ma'am.
Hello. Yes, yes. Yes, anything?
Ma'am, one more person now, Dr. M. Muthukumar.
Okay.
Has contradicted the idea of Sir Dr. Vasu sir idea. I think if an idea of the other person is written in its own style, in one's own style, it must be a plagiarism. Any opinion about that?
Already asked this
question. Question is not clear.
Yeah, question.
Oh, sir. Okay, okay.
Madam, may I just explain, sir, the question?
Repeat.
Sometimes someone writes something, but in the software, it is showed that it is plagiarized.
Not okay.
If one writes by one's own very own language, suppose some idea from a book after paraphrasing, or from my own idea, someone is writing his or her own idea, but in software, it is said, it is showed that it is plagiarized. What is the solution? That had been the question.
Somebody is writing about him, about other person, or about himself.
That his own idea in his own language.
Okay,
one is writing one's own idea in one's own language, but in software it is showed that it is plagiarized. what is the solution?
Maybe this piece of information or idea is mentioned in another place, in a book or a journal or a work, and it is printed, and now it is there on the internet. Now it is plagiarism because you do not mention. Who knows that you are the writer? You see, it's there. As I told you, now everything is available on the internet, and it is not easy. It's not easy to say it is not mine. I did not know. I did not see. And now, if you write something, it is your own. Now it is your property, and it is kept to you by your name. Write your name. All the things which you wrote, which you prepared, all the work that you have done is written. It's there, and it's kept to you. But if you refer to them, you have to mention that Mr. So and so. But you cannot say I, because when you write the research paper, we do not say the I, we say the researcher.
Right.
If you say I, who is I? Who are you? Nobody knows who's Wasif, but the researcher. Now we are concentrating on the researcher, and the researcher has done this and that. You see, but to say that if you write about, you write something, and then the software that doesn't know on the same, on the same topic or the same paper, nobody objects. Now I said that I'm in the conference, in the webinar. I'm not in a lecture. I'm not giving a lecture. If I am in the lecture, I should be in the university. But anyone who sees now the photo, he sees that behind me there is a background. This is a webinar. This is my own. Now it will be who owns the organizers. If you write the organizer about the webinar, the Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Chennai, then the Guru College of Education organizes immediately it comes to you. Who are the speakers the first day, the second day? Everything is recorded. Now it is not our property. It is not my own word. This the paper is presented in the conference. And if somebody likes to refer to this, any piece of information or an idea which I mentioned just now, he has that to write only on the right on the internet. Methods, research methods on application, Dr. Wasif Maraj, the webinar, so and so. All the details comes to him. So if you have to refer, you have to mention the site. Because of that, they say that now we know, but if I write my paper, my own paper, and print it, and it is my own. But now all these belongings are returned to the webinar or to the conference. You see, but nobody blames or says that this piece of information, when you refer to it in software, say that it is not yours. But no, okay, who am I? Nobody knows Wasif, but knows the researcher. On the cover of the book or journal or the paper, it is written by so and so. So that author is the one who is considered to be the author of that paper. Nobody objects. It is a serious problem. But the person who manages to write a paper or a research, after some experience, 2 or 3 papers, he will be expert in doing that. He will be a scholar.
Sir, Sibli sir, from Jyoti Kumar, which research approach is better for beginners? Beginners.
Which research approach? Beginners.
Beginners.
Whenever you talk about any approach, I would appreciate whichever you feel comfortable with, start with that. After a while, you will get to know which research approach, and your supervisor will definitely ask you to be in the right track. But if you do not begin and think that research is really a tough process and it's quite impossible for me to go on with, it would be really tough for anyone to start. So start with whatever you have, with whatever thought you do have. Even regarding plagiarism, sir was saying a very wonderful explanation we have got from Wasif sir. But if you think about plagiarism first, you cannot write anything. You read it, write it in your own language, give reference, give the due due contribution, legacy that you are supposed to do. Put it. If you find that this is plagiarized, once again, Tanitin is explaining this is plagiarized, reframe it, rewrite it. Things should be all right. But whenever you get the idea from anyone, you must acknowledge this is academic ethics, right? That is what I was trying to say again and again. So whatever we have, whatever idea we do have, whatever process we want to follow, whatever structure, approach, method, everything, don't go for those tough words and don't think like this is really impossible a thing we cannot do. Just start. Things will be all right. And if we keep in mind that I will do it, I will have or get it done, things will be done. And that is why our supervisors are there, our seniors are there to get some more information, to get some guidance from experts. So please do start and don't think like that you cannot do it. You have to suffer from qualitative or quantitative, ethnographic or action research, whatever it is. Just start it. Starting is if you can start it, if you can plan it, things are half done.
Sir, from Shagi, difference between quantitative and qualitative research.
What difference between quantitative and qualitative research?
Qualitative research, yes, sir.
Okay. Probably I already have showed you. Just a moment. I better show you once again. I explained all those things. Probably you could not connect it in the very beginning, right? Just a moment. Yes. You can. I believe it's high time, and we probably have taken much time. You can take a screenshot and then go on with. And if Bobby Madam or Madam, if you tell me, I can even send you the slides as well.
Let the participants take the screenshot, sir.
Yeah. That's why I just opened it. I better show it. Oops. Oh. Yes. No, not this one.
Yes.
This one. Yes. Could you please take the screenshot? Okay, I believe you could. In one single sentence, if you tell, qualitative research basically focus upon any particular issue which is not dependent upon the quantity or number or frequency. Yes, and quantitative research is basically it's dependent upon number, frequency, number of time it happens, number of people supports, and it's basically dependent upon number. Number means, of course, you do understand the number over here matters.
Participants, please see to the YouTube channel for further reference.
Causality between the variables.
Ma'am, shall we complete?
Yes, ma'am.
Bobby, madam.
Yes, I think if in case participants have some other questions or queries, we will allow them to ask us. We can transfer that to the respective speakers. I think
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Since it is already 2:30 now,
yes,
we will.
But it is really very nice. We really finished in time, and we really have enthusiastic participants as well. So should we conclude now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes,
I request Mr. Rakesh Basu Roy, Assistant Professor of Dhupguri College of Education, please give the vote of thanks.
Can I audible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. But before that, I would like to express my gratitude, to both our speakers, for coming to India virtually.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, me too. Thank you, Vasub and Naman sir, for your valuable ideas sharing us. Thank you so much, sir.
Really.
Thank you so much.
Over to you, Rakesh.
Really, we are lucky to have you both, sir.
Okay, over to
Thank
you,
you so
Rakesh.
much. It was a pleasure, of course, and privilege to have been with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
It's my privilege to have been asked to purpose a vote of thanks on this webinar. I, on behalf of Dhupguri College of Education, extend a very heartily vote of thanks to all the honorable delegates and who blessed us with their presence and took out valuable time of your busy schedule. I must mention our deeply sense of appreciation for Dr. T. Shivashakti Madam and Dr. Bobby Madam. And also I would like to extend a special thanks to Mr. Sibli Nomen sir and Dr. Wasef A. Maharse sir for valuable presentation and explanation, as no program can become successful with a single person. So I extend my big thanks to Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University for their support. Thank you all the teachers and all the participants for making this event successful with your contribution. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you so much. Especially really the experts, Shiblis and Wasif sir, suppose they wouldn't have been here today, it wouldn't have been successful. I really thank Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University
Thank you
for
so much,
giving us
sir.
this opportunity.
Thank
Seriously,
you,
it means
doctor.
wholeheartedly. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Sir,
you, ma'am.
God bless.
thank you
God
so
bless
much.
all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
God bless.
Thank
Dr.
you, sir.
Wasap sir. Thank you so much, Norman sir, on behalf of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bobby ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Premalata
Thank
ma'am.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all the panelists and thank you all the
Okay,
participants. Thank
bye-bye.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Premlata ma'am, see you.
Ma'am, see you. Bye, ma'am. Successfully conducted the first day.
Rakesh sir,
Right.
Rakesh sir, thank you. Rakesh sir,
In,
thank you so much.
in fact,
Thank you,
I just
thank
want
you.
to add.
Dr.
I would
Josephine
like.
madam, thank you.
Yes.
Dr. R.I.K. Josephine ma'am, thank you so much.
Right.
Very
In fact, I
supportive
would
in
like to add. Yes. I would like to add that even other resource person. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Shiva Shakti ma'am, even
Yes,
other
please.
resource person were present today. Like Hemlata madam was there.
Oh, ma'am,
Arun sir
hi,
was there.
welcome. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
Kishori
Yes,
madam
yes.
was there. Everybody they participated
Oh,
today. All
oh,
right. See you then.
super.
See you. God bless. God bless all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye,
Ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you
Bye,
so
bye,
much.
bye.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, shall I end up the session? Ma'am?
Yes, please. Yes,
Yes,
please.
thank you. Thank you so much.